Marketer of the Day, episode 685. Flourish to seven figures. Set bigger goals and take imperfect action with Facebook ads expert Monica Louie.
Hey everyone, we are back here with third-time guest Monica Louie, who is a Facebook and Instagram ad strategist. You can find her other appearances at marketeroftheday.com/535, where she talks about Facebook ads, marketeroftheday.com/620, where she talks about Facebook and Instagram. And you might have seen Monica in Forbes, michaelhyatt.com, the Smart Passive Income podcast, all kinds of places. And Monica started by blogging about her family's journey out of debt because in 2 years, she and her husband paid off $120,000 of debt on a single middle-class income. And along the way, she discovered her passion for creating and teaching Facebook ads. And she has an ads management agency called Team Flourish, where she manages ads for 6- and 7-figure online business owners. She's managed more than $1 million in ad spend, and she's taught hundreds of people just like you out there to successfully run their own ads through her online training program, which is called Flourish with Facebook Ads. Her website is monicalouie.com, and we have some other links to drop today. But Monica, how are you today?
I am great. I am excited to be here. I'm honored to be asked to come back.
Yeah, I mean, you give good stuff. I keep getting hungry for more. And so before we started talking, you said that you have a new podcast. So just as we are getting rocking and rolling, can you tell us what it's called, where it is, and what makes it different?
Sure. So it's called the Flourish to Seven Figures podcast. And basically, it's where we explore everything that goes into creating a 7-figure online business. So I work with 6- and 7-figure online business owners with my agency, and I am on my own path to 7 figures. And so I'm really exploring everything that goes into it. Mindset, strategy, of course, Facebook ads. But every other week is a solo show where I get to teach and share what I'm working on in my business or what's working now with Facebook ads. And then every other week is an interview with a successful business owner as to have them share their journey and share their expertise with us. But also a lot of times we just explore into their journey and I ask about mindset and growing their team and how it all came about to build their successful business. So it's been a lot of fun and I've gotten a lot of great feedback about it. So Flourish to 7 figures.
Super cool. And what I like about the way that you do that podcast is you're embracing the randomness, right? Because I mean, you've probably seen this. A lot of people decide, well, my niche is Facebook and Instagram ads. And that's great for a product to sell. That's great to hop on different podcasts and give your spiel and all that. But when you have to keep on cranking out the content, cranking out the podcast episodes, some people make that mistake of making it about one thing and forgetting about the randomness, all the extra stuff, talking about people's journeys and mindset. So the Flourish to 7 Figures podcast. And so in that podcast, I mean, what would you say has been your favorite topic or episode or guest or subject so far?
Oh, wow. So one of my favorite episodes was actually when I had the opportunity to interview Pat Flynn. Pat Flynn has been my longtime mentor virtual before I even met him. And now he was actually one of my coaching clients in early 2018, learning Facebook ads for me. But then in spring of 2018, I joined his SPI Accelerator program. And so he became my coach and actual in-person mentor. And so that has been really cool. And then when I launched my podcast, I went through his course, Power Up Podcasting, to learn about it. And he was coming out with this book at the same time, well, a couple months later after I launched the podcast. And he agreed to, come on the podcast and share about his book, How to Create Superfans. But just having that opportunity to kind of ask him the questions that I had always been wondering about. And I got really great feedback about that episode that, a lot of people have heard Pat Flynn on a lot of different podcast episodes. But I asked different questions and it was unlike any other interview that they had heard of him. So that was really great opportunity. That was, I'm going to totally blank on the episode number now, but we can put that link in the show notes. And then another popular episode, one that I'm really excited about is a recent one, episode number 21, where I shared 8 real reasons why Facebook ads don't work. And that was really me speaking to the objections that I hear, and I hear it, every now and then about how people will just say the blanket statement, Facebook ads don't work. And so I really explored why people would say that, and then how we can turn that around and figure out, why their experience might be that Facebook ads aren't working for them, at this moment in time, and how we can make, uh, follow the solutions to make each of those reasons help Facebook ads work for us. So that's one I'm really proud of because I was able to hopefully help people think about that when they hear, people make comments like that, or Facebook just wants to take your money and comments like that. So I'm really proud of that one. That's episode 21.
Super cool. So that is the Flourish to Seven Figures podcast, and we'll circle back around at the end and drop a link to that. We'll have a link from the show notes. But if you land on that podcast or you subscribe, which you should, and you're like, there's all these episodes, I don't know which one to start with, find the Pat Flynn one, and then find episode 21 with 8 real reasons why Facebook ads don't work. And like that starting point, I guess, is really interesting. Also, is maybe everyone should maybe think about performing that exercise with their own business. Is whether they're writing like some articles, some content, or even ads. Think about the solution that you have. Maybe back up a little bit and think, what are 8 reasons why YouTube advertising doesn't work? What are 8 real reasons why landing pages won't work? Because people out there are already thinking of these things, right? And whether it's, Facebook ads or Instagram content or whatever, people are always like, a lot of people have their minds made up already that it's, too expensive or too much work. And instead of fighting people on that or saying, well, your thoughts suck, right? Then instead, like, align with that and say, well, I can see why you would say that. And you're right, it doesn't work because of this reason. And so maybe to give us a little bit of a taste, I don't want to, repeat your episode, but out of those 8 real reasons, is there one of those that stands out above the rest? Is there like one huge reason that you hear a lot about why Facebook ads don't work, out of curiosity?
Well, a lot of times it's because people haven't thought through the strategy, or they think that Facebook ads are the solution, where like Facebook ads are the answers. And I understand why people would think that, because there are a lot of people out there who teach Facebook ads who are positioning it as like, once you learn Facebook ads, then the rest of your business is set. You've got money coming in on autopilot. All you need to do is figure out the ads. But that's really just a small piece of the puzzle. And that's why my podcast, to your point, is not solely about Facebook ads. Right now, since it's fairly new, I'm setting the foundational content with a lot of Facebook ads episodes. But it's only one piece of the puzzle. And so when you look at your entire strategy, how do Facebook ads come into play? And so when you are driving traffic into your funnel, you want to have a long-term view and know that you might be bringing in low-cost leads into your funnel, but really you're setting the foundation, you're building the relationship for the long term. Maybe your funnel's 7 or 14 days, and don't get disappointed if somebody doesn't buy during that time frame. It really could be that just now is not the right time for them to invest in your program. Maybe, if you're selling a course, maybe they just purchased another course, or they're going through another program that they really want to focus on. And that might be the best decision for them. But know that you are building that relationship for the long term, so that when the time is right, you're staying top of mind. So I think that's the better approach to use Facebook ads. And also in this podcast episode, I share an example of like Mercedes-Benz, with traditional advertising and commercials. Where are they measuring the ROI on their commercials? Because they are constantly showing commercials so that when you are ready to purchase a car, hopefully you'll think about Mercedes, and hopefully they've swayed you that Mercedes is going to be the best brand for them. But when you're ready to make that decision, let's say you see a commercial, you go down to the store, the car dealership, and you purchase your Mercedes, how is Mercedes going to attribute that conversion? Are they going to say, okay, that one commercial worked? Are they going to say it was that salesperson who helped you make that buying decision? Or is it going to say, it was a cumulative effect of all of the advertising and all the commercials that you saw beforehand, the one that maybe, did intrigue you about the brand new model, whatever, that led you into the dealership. And yes, the salesperson, I'm sure, had a part in it. But so I want people to start to think about their Facebook ads as part of a comprehensive strategy. But there's definitely more to it. You've got to have, the converting landing pages. You've got to have the relationship building and and you've got to have a great product. Quite frankly, I mean, Facebook ads can't create a great product for you. So I kind of get a little bit passionate in that episode about that.
I can tell, and that's a much healthier way and maybe a less afraid way of going about it. And you hear about a lot of this when, like, if people are hesitant towards having a certain ad budget, especially if, say, it's a brick and mortar where they're not as, I don't know if digitally affluent is a thing, but like they're not as like technically inclined, right? And they say,
Right.
well, I don't know if I want to throw in $500 or I don't want to waste $10,000 on my ads. But then you say, well, what's your cost per customer acquisition, right? Like when people come in your door, how much does that cost you? And then if you can run ads and it's cheaper than that, then even if you don't see that direct cause and effect, then you're okay. Then you're on the right track. So you say that it's a cumulative strategy, right? It's not just the ad, it's the funnel, it's the landing page. What are the other pieces of that? What other things go through your mind when you're saying the whole cumulative strategy aside from ad, landing page, funnel?
Sure. So, I mean, there's the email copy, which the email is really the relationship building piece. So once you get somebody to enter your funnel, then hopefully you're following up with emails throughout the nurturing sequence to kind of establish your expertise and explain who you are and what you teach, and then you eventually present your product as the solution for them. So you're building the relationship right then, which you start to do that in the ad. If the first time somebody is seeing you or hearing about you is in the ad, then you're starting to set the foundation there with the ad, the way that it's structured. If you're in the image or the video, or your branding, your copy, all of that is starting to build the relationship. But then you've got to carry that through with your emails in the funnel. And then also, if they're following you on social media or they're kind of checking you out to see, to learn more about you, you want to have that cohesiveness there. And then even after they go through the funnel. So let's say somebody just found out about you, they decided now is not the right time, even if they are interested, and they go through the funnel, then it's the follow-up after. So those can, being consistent with your email newsletters to continue to build that relationship, putting out your own free content for them to, again, continue to build the relationship with you. That's one of the reasons why I started my podcast, is because I know that following people like Pat Flynn, Amy Porterfield, like I really became huge, super fans of them because of the hours and hours and hours that I spent listening to their content in their podcast. And so what other, methods are you sharing and teaching? And that'll help to strengthen that relationship over time. And then when you do have an offer, so, as we're going into the fall season right now, Black Friday is right around the corner. So if you've done a great job about building that relationship, continuously showing up so that you're continuously top of mind, then when you have the offer and it is the right time, people will be more likely to take advantage of it.
Super cool. And so what I'm getting from your answers and some of our discussions so far is that there are many times when we feel like we're working for free, right? It's like you send an email, you put it in the sequence, you're like, where's my money? You put out the blog posts, you put out the podcast episodes, and it's like there's that understanding that, well, the money comes after, and that many of the people that we've ended up bought from, like a Pat Flynn or Amy Porterfield, they gave us free stuff at first as well, right? And sometimes they had to wear us down, or we had to just get on their list and get this amount of free stuff. And so I think that's probably really encouraging, right? So because that way we can have more patience, and we can have more of the faith that it'll work out. So that way we don't say, oh, now I have to come up with episode number 85 from my podcast. You're like, well, this is how people do it. This is the way to stand out. This is what led me to buying things from my gurus, my mentors. So it needs to just be a part of it. That way, when they search us on social media, they don't find nothing. That'd be really bad, right? If we're running Facebook ads and someone says, well, I'm kind of curious, I might have opted in. What else do they have going on? There's nothing there. We need to have those fundamentals in place, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. And then so something that we haven't covered it since this is your third appearance. We still haven't covered it. Is in your bio, you said that that you and your family were in a really bad financial place and you dug yourself out of it in record time. And those kinds of stories are always really fun to listen to. Maybe they probably weren't fun being in the middle of it, but then now that you've figured it out and years have passed and you can look back and laugh, what the heck happened there and how'd you get out of that financial hole?
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, at the time, we didn't think things were that bad. We just thought that we were, quote unquote, normal. So we had student loan debt. We had our mortgage. We had our home equity line of credit. We paid our credit card off every single month. So we felt like we were in a pretty good financial situation. But when things changed is when we started to grow our family and have kids, and I decided that I wanted to have more freedom in my schedule. I didn't want to go to my corporate job. And, the expectation was like, you're going to be there 50 plus hours a week. Plus there's a commute, to and from. And I didn't want my son, who was a baby at the time, to spend, all day in daycare. And then I would have like maybe 1 or 2 hours with him, in the evening before then we had to put him to bed. And so I really wanted more control over my schedule. And I had started to learn about like building a business and having your own business, but I had no idea what I could do at the time. But I knew that if I had the opportunity, if I had more time on my hands, that I could really take advantage of that and figure out what kind of business I could create from home that would allow me to start small and then grow it over time, help people make some money, but really do it on my own terms. And so we were trying to be smart about it. So we ended up building up some savings. So as I talked to my husband about, making this transition from 2 incomes down to 1, we were trying to be smart. So we saved up money, we paid off our car. So over time, I ended up going part-time for about a year, just so that, we could help us transition from the 2 full-time incomes down to, 1.5 incomes. And then after that year was up, then by that time, my husband had gotten a promotion at his work, so he was making a little bit more. And then I was pregnant with our daughter, our second child at that time, and we felt like it was a good time. We, ran the numbers about like our expenses, our monthly expenses, how much he was bringing in, and we thought like, okay, we're in a good place. We can make this happen. And so what happened was a couple months into it, after I had left my job, we saw that our savings that we had built up had started to dip. And because I was pregnant and, I just made this decision to leave my job where I had worked there for 7 years, I didn't want to put myself in a position where, first of all, I had to go back, which I knew that I could. So that was, kind of nice as a fallback, but I really didn't want to have to do that, especially about having, getting ready to have our second baby. And then secondly, I didn't want my desire to have more time with my kids and have more, freedom in my schedule to create, financial stress for my husband and me. And so that's where I really took it upon myself to dive into the personal finance world and learn how people survive on a single income. And that led me down the path of hearing that not only were people surviving on a single income, but people were also paying off massive amounts of debt really quickly. And so as I told my husband about this one family that I found who was similar to us, they were on a single income, they had young kids, but they paid off all of their debt and their mortgage in 10 years. As I told him about that story, I was like, I think that, if they can do it in 10 years, we can do it in 8. We were 32 at the time. And so it's like, okay, so we can do this by the time we're 40 and be completely debt free. And we just really saw that like getting rid of the debt would help us feel much more secure. If something were to happen to his job, then our monthly expenses wouldn't be as much. We could save faster if we didn't have the debt. We could invest more, that we could, have just a lot more opportunity for the money that we were bringing in if we got rid of the debt quickly. So that's where we really decided to hit the ground running. And we ended up paying off $120,000 of debt in 2 years, all on a single middle class income. So this was really as I was starting and growing my first blog, but it really wasn't making any money during that time. So we were all basically on my husband's income, and he's not a doctor or a lawyer. He's in law enforcement. So middle class income for sure. And that's where his coworkers who make roughly the same amount as he does started asking, how we were doing that. And so that's where the idea for my first business from home, my first blog, came about. That I was so passionate about helping us, create our plan and stick to our plan of getting out of debt. That's where I really saw an opportunity to help other people do the same. So that's how I got into the online world. I had started to learn about blogging. And so I knew that that was a great platform to share my message and teach others. And so I did some financial coaching. But then from there is where I started following Pat Flynn and Amy Porterfield, learning all about online marketing and Facebook ads, and fell in love with that and had great success with my own ads for that business from the start. So that kind of led me into the transition to diving into Facebook ads coaching, building my course, and now building my agency.
Super awesome. And what I like about that is you didn't like you it took you a while to get to where you're at, right? It's like and you started with what you knew. You started with what you're doing. You said, well, I'm doing all this research and this learning and finding about the other families and implementing anyway. So it's not like you were said, well, let me like learn about something and then reteach what I learned or reword it. You said, I'm learning it, I'm doing it, and then I'm in a way documenting what I'm doing in this whole blogging thing. And so also out of curiosity, to pay off all that debt, what was your secret? Was it just a matter of like having a really good budget or cutting expenses, or like, I mean, how the heck was that even possible?
Yeah, I mean, that's where like the questions started coming up, because people knew, like, I had just left my job. And so we were just on his income. So where was all this extra, quote unquote, extra money coming from? And so really it was a lot of hustling on my husband's part. And then me tracking every dollar, every penny that was coming in and every penny that was going out. So, we cut expenses where we could. That was easy, the easy place to start. But then also my husband really took the lead in selling things. So we had a very successful garage sale in that very first month, which helped us to build momentum. So we brought in $1,600 in a weekend just from that garage sale. So I wrote a blog post, about how to have an effective garage sale. And we ended up selling his car, which when he graduated from college, he bought the car. It was his dream car at the time. But then as we, were starting to grow our family, it wasn't as family friendly. And because he had well maintained it, we were able to get a good amount for that and then buy a cheaper car. And then we just went around the house and we were basically like, if anything, we're not attached to, would we rather, have the potential to have money because for, in place of this item and pay off a little bit more debt. And everything really just adds up. And so that's something that we're continuing to do to this day, as we go through kids, toys and clothes and things. We're always going through and like kind of purging, what do we not need anymore? What's just taking up space? And, do we have an opportunity to sell it and make some money, or do we want to just donate it, and just be done with it? So, so that's a practice that we still do. And we teach our kids now about that as well. But that's, really, another thing, a big thing that we did that really helped was, as I mentioned, my husband is in law enforcement and, middle class income, but he had the opportunity to go to another state for 45 days and work overtime. And so he ended up, we kind of talked through it because at that time our daughter was 4 months old, our son was 2. And so that was a big undertaking. We had just adjusted to having 2 kids, and then all of a sudden he was going to leave. And so, but we decided that it would be a short, period of time for our lives. It would be a challenge getting through it, day in and day out while he was gone. But it was also, looking back, it would be just a relatively short amount of time in our lives where we would, make that sacrifice that he would be gone for that length of time. He ended up just making the most of it. He worked double shifts the entire time. He didn't take a day off. He ended up, doubling his income during that time. So we were able to put all that extra money toward the debt. And then he came back and, it's something that we knew that we were committed to our goal. And then, we were presented with this opportunity that wasn't ideal, but it was something that was going to allow us to get closer to our goal. And so we took advantage of it. So that was something, and for me, being a mom at home with 2 young kids, I just thought about like I was raised with a single mom. So I know, there are other people who do it, who get through it. There's also, military families where, one of the spouses is overseas for a time period, leaving the other one home with the kids. So I just knew that it was something that, would help us and achieve our goal. And it was just for a short time period looking back, so just things like that, we just grabbed a hold of opportunities that could help us get closer to our goal.
I like it. And I'm hearing a lot of your strategy here. Your mindset is there's this maybe temporary uncomfortableness, right? Like a short-term sacrifice, but then you say, well, is this going to get me closer to my goal that I wanted so much that outweighs the thing I'm trying to, like, spend extra time overtime, or sell, like the Dave Ramsey stuff, selling things that aren't nailed down. Is this going to get me closer to my goal? Then we should go for it. And you hear about those kinds of things all the time, but it's very reassuring and wonderful to hear it actually implemented. Sometimes you'll hear about people will say, well, don't say no to money, right? Or like, just try out. If you haven't offered one-on-one coaching, try it out, see what happens, throw out a price, figure out your rate, do it temporarily. And then if it gets you closer to your goal, if it pays things down more, if it increases your income, if it gets you closer, whatever that goal is, then why not go for it? And if you don't like it, or if it needs some tweaking or adjusting, then be an advertising person and throw out the ads that aren't working, right? Or pause those ad campaigns that were working or that aren't serving you now, and then keep on revisiting and readjusting. So with all of your adventures here, with the paying off the debt, the blogging, the making the family thing work, the Facebook, Instagram, the podcasting, does anything jump out at you as far as just like your number one pearl of wisdom over these last few years?
Gosh, that's a big question. I think that really what I've learned is, and I still need to remind myself of this, as I set even bigger goals and continue to grow in my business, is that, as I've gotten to know people that I, admired from afar, online, and now like I'm becoming friends with people in this space who have extremely successful businesses. They're, my clients and my mentors and my friends. And what I've really learned is that they're no different from anybody else, that the people who are, achieving the success, they are the ones who, had big ambitions and big goals, but also got out of their comfort zone in order to make it happen. They took a lot of action, just like you were saying. They took a lot of action to make things happen. They tried things. They were okay, taking chances and failing and maybe not doing things perfectly. And so they're the ones, they don't really have any like special like it factor. There's no special it factor that helped them have success. Sure, we all have our own strengths, areas that we feel more comfortable with, but really, there are areas that they are still working on getting stronger at and getting better at as well. But the reason why they're farther along in their business, or, more successful, is because they have taken a lot of action. And just like you were saying, they figured out what works, they figured out what didn't. And, they stopped doing what didn't work, and they focus in on what works. But they also, like, the main theme is like they continue to take action. So as we were paying off the debt, it's because we were very committed on, to our goal, and we continued to take action. The reason why my business has grown so fast is because I paid attention to those opportunities that have been coming my way, is where people are, asking for my help with their ads. That's how I created my course, is because I started with coaching, and then as my coaching, kind of demand for my coaching services grew really rapidly, I saw that there was an opportunity for me to create an online course to help more people at a lower price point. And so that's why I did that. And then I grew my ads agency, not because I wanted to be an agency owner, but because people started asking me to manage their ads for them. And so I, started to figure out, okay, well, how can we do that? How can I make that work? And how can we do that in an authentic way? Because I actually shied away from that initially because I didn't want to act like somebody else, in creating the ads. And now we've developed our process in a way that we can learn about the avatar, learn about our customer and the branding and the messaging, and then, write the ad copy and put it all together and represent the brand very well in a very authentic way, working with the client. So, it was about taking advantage of those opportunities. So I think that's the thing, is like, getting out of your own way, being able to take big action. Don't worry about failure. Just keep going, right? Just like you said, like it's all a test. You're just figuring out what works and what doesn't, and then keep going. I mean, taking action. There's no it factor.
Awesome. Well, very inspiring. And what I like about that answer you gave there is that it's like it seems like what motivated you was solving the problem for a specific person, right? It's like you got into the Facebook ads because people were asking you. And I'm sure you've been in, and I mean, you got into the blogging about paying down the debt because you were doing it and it was time to document. And I've kind of found that myself is sometimes I've been stuck about, well, I want to write a book on this or write a chapter of this or record a podcast episode on that. And maybe I had a few bullet points figured out, but I was just like, I don't know if it's any good. And then I get an email coming in from some customer who says, I bought this, but what about this specific question? Or I'm about to buy that, and what about this? Or I use, this software and I'm stuck here. And then that's a really easy way of cranking out the content is you say, someone came to me with a real question or a repeat question, and I'll record it for free, knowing that it'll help that one person out, but then that is a repeat selling tool that can become my sequence, SEO traffic, run Facebook ads to it. And so that's a really helpful thing. I think what I got from you and what we should all keep in mind is to help us get out of that comfort zone and take that imperfect action you're talking about is pay attention to people's needs, pay attention to where the problem isn't quite solved or what people are asking about, and then we just provide the solution. Maybe it really can be as simple as that. And also what I like hearing from you is that you're a specialist in certain things, and then because of that, Pat Flynn can pay you money for your Facebook ads, but then you can also pay him money for the podcasting training. So it's not like a one-way street. Sometimes we can pay someone for coaching or for training on this, and then they pay us right back for coaching and training on that, instead of either just saying, well, I'm only going to be a seller, or I'm only going to be a buyer, or can I get this or that figured out for free? I mean, sometimes just shortcut the time factor, pay the money, make it happen, hire that coach or hire that course if it's something more lower ticket where they can help more people at the same time. So along those lines, I'm sure that if people are hearing you today for the first time or they know from your other appearances, they say, all right, well, she gets a ton of stuff done and is super smart and has a lot to teach me. So if people say, I like what Monica has to say, I want to take the next step when it comes to the Facebook ads, the Instagram ads, check out her podcast, just see what she has going on. Where's the place to go? What's the web address here?
Sure. So my website is monicalouie.com, and I would love to offer your listeners my Facebook ad starter kit, which breaks down the 6 simple steps to creating campaigns that convert. It's got a glossary in there if you're new to Facebook ads, but then also a checklist so that even if you're like, okay, I understand like all the steps and the terms, but if you go through the checklist, you're going to be much more organized going into the ads manager, creating your next campaign, because you know that you've got everything, you've thought through everything, and you've got it all mapped out, and then you're just ready to go set up your campaign. So they can find that at monicalouie.com/Robert.
Ooh, super cool. A personalized page and everything, just like the other appearances. So that is MonicaLouie.com/Robert to get that Facebook ad starter kit, to find out those 6 steps, to see that checklist. And that's, I think, something that we all need to keep in mind is that sometimes it's easy to just blast through things and say, oh, I don't need to know those Facebook terms. I don't need to know those steps. But where has that gotten you? Maybe you've skipped steps. Maybe there's some special areas of Facebook ads where you say, oh, I didn't know. I was so busy rushing through it. I didn't know I needed to stop and do that extra little step. Or maybe I've been running ads and I can apply that one small tweak or do something new with my Facebook ads. So it helps sometimes to go back to school and just learn those fundamentals, learn those basics. It won't take you that much time, and it will help you depending on where you're at. If you're new and you tried a little bit and you stopped, well, maybe it was because you didn't have that easy glossary or their easy checklist. And if you have been doing Facebook ads for a while, again, maybe you blasted through and you can go back and figure out one thing that you can apply even to your Facebook ads on an even greater scale because you figured out those basics, those fundamentals. So MonicaLouie.com/Robert is the place to get that. And while you're there, check out Monica's course, look into her coaching, and tune into that Flourish to 7 Figures podcast. So that way you can keep tabs on her and hear about all these fun stories, because sometimes we need training, but other times we need a little pick-me-up, right? We need an inspiring story or a nugget of inspiration, or we need to know that we're on the right track, and it helps so much to get on someone's list, to listen to someone's podcast. So the Flourish to 7 Figures podcast, you can find all that great stuff at MonicaLouie.com/Robert. And Monica, thanks for taking the time to be here not once, not twice, but 3 times. I appreciate you coming here every single visit.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat with you, and thank you. It's such an honor to be asked back. I appreciate it.
All right, well, we'll see you next time. I guarantee it. Thanks for listening to today's program. Start from the beginning or view past episodes at marketeroftheday.com/episodes.